Can I record this course? It's fine if I make a record from this course.
Yes.
Okay.
I start with share my screen. I just want to make sure that do you think that the student can hear me good? Because I'm not sure if my voice is loud enough.
It's really loud. We have speaker in our class.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Share. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. But before I start, I just introduce very quickly about myself, so everybody know who I am and how is my background. So first, thanks Fuad for inviting me, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm now in Finland. In Finland, we are just like 9 a.m., so it's in the morning. But yep. So thanks for giving me the chance to share my story with you, and I think this is not a very difficult, not too academic or not too technical presentation, but it's more sharing about the situation and the progress of the working toward my big dream about the Vietnamese bryophytes. So just a little bit about myself. So this maybe you already hear from Fuad that I'm now doing my doctoral study in Finland, University of Turku. And my thesis is about the diversification, taxonomy, and phylogeny of Meteoraceae in Asia. Meteoraceae is a very big family in the tropics, and I know that in Indonesia you also have a lot of them. So my background is mainly on taxonomy, phylogeny, and also some it includes also biogeography and both in molecular and morphology data. But today I'm not going to talk about it because although I'm in Finland now, but my background is in Vietnam. I work in the University of Science in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and I'm also recently a member of the IUCN SSC Bryophyte Specialist Group, which is focused on making like conservation and red list status assessment for the bryophyte. So I think this time I will share with you some of the work which is focusing on that topic. So my presentation is also but it's also include the data and also the information from several of my colleagues, which I say here. Okay, so during my talk, if you have any question, please just interrupt and feel free to ask. Or you can also wait until the end, is also no problem. Okay, so shall we start first with the IUCN red list? Sure you can see the pointer, I guess. Okay. So have you I think maybe many of you have heard about the IUCN red list, which is a list that about the conservation status of species. It's all of the species, I think, except microorganism. And of course, it also includes plant and vascular plant, bryophyte, and animals, etc. And if you like go to this website, maybe after this workshop, I can share with you, and then you can go to this website, IUCN red list, and try to browse it around. You will see that the situation of bryophyte is not very like complete. This is the global list, and so it's like the status for the whole world. You can see like for bryophyte, we have Bryophyta is a mosses. We have like 210 species. Mercantiophyta, for the liverwort, we have 100 species, and the hornwort, we have around only 3 species that has been assessed. Assessed mean have been evaluated for the conservation status. And if you think of this number comparing to like the total number of bryophytes in the world, which is about I don't remember, but maybe 15,000 or something around that number, then it's very, very low. I think altogether we have only 300 species that have been assessed of bryophytes. And if you go to we filter by the region, for example, you can see like many of the assessment is done by the Europe. I mean, in the Europe area. And for the Asia, we have very, very few. Europe, we have almost 200 species, but like Southeast Asia, we have only 18 species have been assessed. And let's see, for Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, and also Vietnam, we have only one, which is the liverwort, Pleurosia gigantea. And also the status is also not that like not very important. It's a less concern, and it has been assessed like more than almost 10 years ago. So you can see like it really like we really lack of the work for the conservation status in Southeast Asia. And this is a very long progress and require a lot of data from a long time. So I think that is very good that you know about it today, and then we can do together. In a long term, we can slowly do the assessment. But let's see. Let's move to the biodiversity hotspot area. As you can see, like Southeast Asia, we are one of the biodiversity hotspots, which including Vietnam and also Indonesia. And I think in the majority part of the Southeast Asia is in the biodiversity hotspot. But then, have you ever heard about the concept dark spot? That is a relative new. I think the paper is just published this year, and this is a very nice concept, which is not really like contradict with the hotspot, but it's like putting together. So dark spot is the countries that have been contain the most of undescribed species. So so those areas usually is the priority for the future collection. And again, you can see here the red is the dark spot, and though with the stripe, you can see the stripe, the network is hotspot. And then Vietnam and also part of the Indonesia. Also, I think this is Sumatra, right? And you are the Java. So we are also in one of the dark spots, which means that we lack a lot of information, and which also means that require a lot of work in the future and more priority in also collection and then study. About the species richness, I think this is a rather old map, but I cannot find any newer map. It's also like 10 years ago, and it's about the number of species of mosses in the countries. And Vietnam and Indonesia is somewhere like in the middle, but actually it's also very rich in the Java. If I'm wrong in the geography, please correct me. Maybe I'm not very familiar with many islands, but Yes. So I think the number of species of mosses in Vietnam is about 500, 600, and for Sumatra is rather low than in Java. But I think it's again it's you can compare with this map. This which also mean that it's Sumatra is like under study, and the Java is a little bit have been well a little bit more better study than the Sumatra, which you can reflect from the number of species in the map. But I also think that this is not the final number of species anyway. If we continue study, there will be more species discovered. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some other like mega diversity country. For example, in Brazil, which is in South America, and they have like 56,000 vascular plant and about 1,005 species of bryophyte. And this one is about the relative between the herbarium and the collection. So you will see how is the study in the country, and it has like 200 herbarium with about 6 million specimens. How about in Vietnam? So in Vietnam, the number of species is roughly about the same. Actually, it's a little bit smaller, but it's like 1,002 bryophyte species, and we have only like 16 active herbarium with only 400,000 specimens. Which you can see the between this number and this the number of herbarium and the number of specimens. How about Indonesia? Indonesia, you have this is the information I shot from the index herbarium, and you have like about 20 herbarium for the whole Indonesia, but I think only 17 of them are active. I think the biggest herbarium is it in Bogor? I think so, yes. And for the number of species, I think for the vascular plant, you have about 30,000 species. But for the bryophyte, I'm sorry that I couldn't find the total number of bryophyte in Indonesia. What do you know? How many species do you have for the whole Indonesia?
I don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah, usually I find it's only like
from
for
KPM,
certain island or certain national park, but for the total number is a bit difficult to.
the only I know established is only in Bogor when we took this biotrop courses. Only that I know. In other university, it look like not established.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's not low. It should be a lot because you have a lot of diversity. Anyway, you can see here now the relative between the study and the collection and the number of species. Okay. I think also in chamber, do you have herbarium? No.
Yeah, we have herbarium in total 3,000 specimen, but we not registered yet into the National Herbarium Institution, especially on bryophyte. I just started the last 5 years, and in total we have less than 100 specimen. Yeah.
But I think it's you can slowly start to register because then it like make you like visible and people will know how to study. Okay, so for the conservation status, so-called red list assessment, what do we need? The first thing, we need a checklist. So like we need to know what species we have, and also the distribution map. We also need to know a lot of habitat and population information, which also these data need to be monitoring over the years. Because for the red list assessment, I think we need to study it for after follow it for over like 3 generations, and it usually require history record, and that's why the herbarium specimen is very important, because you will know the history of the past. Okay, let's move a little bit about Vietnam. So I hope that you have know where Vietnam is. I think we are kind of neighbor also. Not to so we also have the total mainland area is about 300,000 kilometers square, and the highest peak is here, is about 3,000 meters. The Vietnam, we also have like divided into several areas, like the biogeography area, and we have, I think we are like monsoon, so we have the raining season, which is about starting about from June to the end of October, and then the dry season. About the history of bryophyte study in Vietnam, it has been started since the 1880. During that time, we were the French colonized, and they have been studied mainly by the French. And you can see here, there's some study. This is based on the number of publication per years. And then you can see like there's a one period of the early of the 20th century, which studied by the French. And then there's a gap. I think this is during the war time, and this many things happen. And then after the war, then there also some study, but also again by many of them are the foreigner. Some of them are French and Hungary and Thomas Bock. So the first checklist of Vietnam for bryophytes is in 1965 by Thomas Bock. And then in 1980, there's a Vietnamese bryologist. His name is Trần Ninh, and he started to do some study on bryophyte, but now he is not active anymore. He's I think he's also retired, and he had been stopped studying since 2000. And then again, in the beginning of the 21st century, we have again when it's more open, and then where more people come. Then there are also some like from Russian and Chinese come to study bryophyte in Vietnam. But I have to say the study of bryophyte in Vietnam is very how to say not many people, not many Vietnamese study. I think my group or me is the only one who study bryophyte in Vietnam, which is very, very we need more people. So in 2012 we have the second checklist but it's only mosses, and then there are also some checklists for liverwort, but I will talk a bit more later. And during that time there's some more study also because of the information now is available on GB, which I also talk a bit more about it later. Okay, so how many bryophyte species in Vietnam? So based on the first checklist, we have around 500 species in total, and which is like about 400 mosses, 150 liverwort, and then so on together, I think about 500 or less than 500. And then move on to this is the second mosses checklist. We have now 700 species of mosses, and for liverwort, we will have like another 300. So altogether now we have about 1,000. But I think this number had been accumulated, and some more new species have been discovered. So I think the total number now is more than 1,000 species for bryophyte in Vietnam. Comparing to like the neighboring country. So in Finland, we have the same area with Vietnam, but we have like about 600, about almost 700 number of taxa. Sorry again, I couldn't find the total for Indonesia, but you can see like for Vietnam, this is all number. This is in almost 20 years ago. Oh no, 30 years ago. It's a study by Tan and Iwasuki for the Indochina. But what I want to show here is like the high percentage of endemic species. So you don't need to care so much about the number of species because it's a bit out of date. But like you can see the total, the percentage of endemic species of Vietnam is very high. And but this have many meaning. This can also mean that we really have a high percentage of endemic, but it also means that there are some species that have been described for Vietnam but never been rediscovered again. So the status stay at endemic. But like you see, like there's only one record of one specimen of that species, and it's never been again because of the lacking of literature and also lacking of the information. So people tend to describe it as another species instead of using that name. So this needs some revision to revise about the taxonomy status of that species. And I more tend to the second reason. Okay, so for species, this is the species composition, and you can see the highest, the richest family is a Stomatophylacea and Pilaciadium. Or now you can say Stomatophylacea sensulato is a very big family. We have altogether like more than 150 species in Vietnam. And then Hypnaceae, Calimperaceae, Necaraceae, Meteoraceae is also one of the top 10. So many of them are leucops. We have small one. But how about the conservation status of Vietnam bryophyte? So we have the Red Book, which is also like it's similar to the Red List of IUCN, but it's for national. So you know, like the Red List of IUCN is global, but this one is national. And then we have the Red Book of Vietnam that has been first, like I have published in 2007. There's an animal. The first part is animal, and the second part is about plant. But there is no bryophyte in this book have been assessed. And I think now, several years ago, they start to revise the book because the idea is also doing the revision for the revise the book after every 10 years. So now the progress of revising the book is now doing. I think it has not published yet, probably next year, I think so. And I think again, there is no bryophyte has been assessed in the second edition of the book because nobody working on bryophyte in Vietnam. I'm not sure about the situation of Indonesia. Do you have read book, I believe, but also I think no bryophyte.
From Indonesian database, we have the checklist of the written under the species like that, but I'm not sure about bryophyte.
Yeah, I think I have once talked with, not really talk, but communicate with Ainun, and she said there's no bryophyte in the red. That's what I remember, but it can be wrong. But I believe so because it's a common in the Southeast Asia. I have talked with many people from Thailand and Malaysia, but also, yes, there's no bryophyte in their red book, the national as conservation style red book. So it's very pity. Really need to do a lot of things in the future. Okay, so this slide again, you see like we need checklist. We are still far from complete distribution map, habitat information. Well, it's really far from complete, and it's a lot of work. But I don't want my presentation to be too negative. So I try to show that what I have trying to do over the past few years since I start to do working on bryophyte. I think I seen my bachelor thesis in 2008. It is like 16 years ago. Is it 16? Yeah, 16, right? So so I have started to work on bryophyte since that date, and I just show you some of our recent effort trying to make the checklist and also collect the data. Okay, so let's see again about Vietnam. So we have really like incomplete flora. Those provinces in green is so-called proper study because it's kind of like they have been somehow, it's not really proper, but at least there have been some like some expedition in some national park or something. But for the orange, this is like a few record here and there together with vascular plant. So it's not, and the gray one is like never ever have been mentioned about this, about bio any. Well, there's a lot of gap for you to color it. And I hope that I will slowly color the map a little bit more. So my aims, so I want to talk to you a little bit about the GBIF and my recent project. Not recent, it's a little bit a few years ago already, but it's one of the way that you can make the data visible and like slowly combine the checklist and the distribution for the profile. Do you know, have you heard about GBIF?
Yeah, access is for herbarium identification.
Yeah, so it's like a global biodiversity information facility. And this is the website. You can go there and search. It's gbif.org. This is the one I just checked yesterday, and they have now 3 billion occurrence. It includes all organisms. It's everything. So the key source data of GBIF, they are based on the specimen of the historic collection, also called herbarium specimen. You can say so. And then also can do also from the observation or some monitor. Also the information can be extracted from the literature, like some book, like on note in the previous. So I think the GBIF started in 2008, but it just recently have been more and more data in the beginning of 2020s. So, yep, and many of them are animal. For example, the bird group is very active because there's many bird watchers in the world, and they are very active on GBIF. But it also for plant is also a very good source of information. Okay, let's have a look about the Indonesia and Vietnam. Here you can see it's Indonesia. So there is about altogether, you have about, I don't know if you can see the number, it's a bit too small, but it's about 4 million occurrence of organism of Indonesia on GBIF. And for Vietnam, it's also only 1 million. You have also like several publishers. You have 13 publishers from Indonesia, but for Vietnam, we have only 5 publishers. Okay, so now it's a quickly idea. Then you know that before our project, there is no profile of Vietnam on GBIF, and that is where is the idea, my idea come from? I think the situation of my herbarium in Vietnam is not any better than your herbarium in Chembe. So here is our bryophyte collection. We have about 8,000 specimens of bryophyte and lichen, but they are in like boxes and they are not very well curated. So as a biologist, I want my specimen to be studied. I don't want it to stay there and get molded and get bad. And so what I want is to make it visible so that people can see it and they start to study. So we got some funding from GBIF and then we do the data mobilization of the bryophyte and lichen in BHH, is the herbarium of University of Science in Ho Chi Minh City. And during that, we try to mobilize and like database and then digitize the specimen onto GBIF. I think the most challenging of the project is the identification, because many specimen has not been identified. And if you don't know the species, it's kind of useless to put on GBIF also. So we need to spend a lot of time and effort in identify it. And then also try to georeference. You know, georeference, like you putting coordinate for the specimen. So we know exactly where on Earth we found it. But we have some collaboration with some project back partner from on the world. And that's really grateful that I have received a lot of help from Japan, Finland, Hungary, and many that help to do the most challenging part is the identification. And then we also have some workshop and to teach the student like you on the identification. Here you can see like Thomas Fox. He's now like 90 years old, but he's still very active. It's amazing. So by the end of the project, we have altogether 3,700 of 3,700 of bryophytes and about 3,000 of lichens have been digitized on GBIF. So now if you go GBIF and you search, you can see it. We also try to like digitize the image of the species. So you also see how it look like. And then you can also check. But again, you can see like many of them are not yet very well identified. Like Ascomycota is very general. It's just kind of fungus. So we still need to update the information later and later, but at least we start to do it. And then for mosses and bryophyte. Again, we can also put our few photos, or you can also put the herbarium photos. Okay, but so this is the first project, and then now, like you can see, we have from the BHH collection. Now it's visible on the map. But then this is not the only collection about Vietnam bryophyte. If you remember my story about the history of Vietnam bryophyte study, there's a lot of specimens collected by the French, and they are now in Paris. And also in Ege. Ege is in Hungary. It's a home institute of Thomas Fox. He's also have a lot, the one who made the first checklist of Vietnam bryophyte, and he's also have done a lot of field work in Vietnam in the 1960s. So there's still a lot of specimen of Vietnam in Paris and Ege. I think for the case of Indonesia, this should be Leiden, where there's a lot of bryophyte specimen in Leiden. I have been there and I know that it's a lot of them. and also some other heparia in Vietnam. Anyway, that's the idea that I continue with the next project. Is BIFA 4, the previously BIFA 3, and now it's the BIFA 4. I try to digitize also the collection in Paris and Ege. So this is the next project. So we visit Ege. We have around 1,500 specimens of Vietnam bryophyte, and Paris we have about 4,000 specimens of Vietnam bryophyte. Again, this is some symposium. We always need to have some symposium with some workshop to talk about GBIF and data. And then, yeah, now we go to Paris, and you can see the Vietnamese bryophyte and lichen collection in Paris. Some of them is very well curated, but there are also a lot of old specimens that have been collected in 1960, 1970, but they are still in a newspaper. And if you don't come there, I think it will stay there forever. Nobody can touch it because they have a lot of work to do. I understand, but this is how we're trying to put it out and give them the information. So we visit. This is the main collection in Paris, and here is like the main collection where they store the specimen nicely. So those specimen here has been labeled. But the thing is they have not been digitized because it's a long progress to digitize. Paris is one of the biggest herbarium in the world, and they have a lot of specimen in their digitizing progress. They are trying also to digitize all of the collection, but I think it maybe now it's only 20% of the specimen has been digitized. So our task is to trying to prioritize the Vietnam specimen. So we try to pull out the Vietnamese specimen, and so that the staff in Paris can do it first. And then also for those own collection in Vietnam in 1950 and 1960, you can see the situation is not very good. So we try to take it and then label it and then identify and then put them in the envelope. And Thomas Bob was also joined with me. He was trying to identify some of the tiny epiphyll liverwort. And then by the end, this is the end of our visit. So many specimens have been like nicely labeled and enveloped and arranged so that the staff in Paris can continue to digitize it. And so after that, about 2,700 specimens that have been now also on GP. Okay, so that's in Paris, and in Ege, the situation also similar. So we also visit Ege. Here you can see Thomas Bock collection from all over the world. I think he also have been in Indonesia, because I remember he has some collection from Indonesia too. Vietnam specimen is this area. You can see, no, here. Usually this is a very common for biologists. We always collect more than what we can do. The same situation here. We always collect a lot, but we have very little time to study well, and the same. So he has a lot of specimen from Vietnam, maybe more than 10 boxes, which is also very few information and so on like this. And many also from not only him, but from other collector also. And they are rather old and very lack of information. So we try at that time, we try to do a handmade studio, but it's not very important. And then he helped us to identify Sana Hutuna also have to identify mosses, and then we are trying to take the specimen and then trying to digitize from the label to put them in the grams. You know grams is the software, the program to create the herbarium samples. And then we put the barcode and then try to read and typing all the information into the computer. Also from his field note, this is amazing for the own style field note. That every time I see this, I feel very amazed because how they carefully describe the situation, the habitat and the plant. But nowadays, I think we are just very quick or use computer or photos. Okay, but anyway, but in the end, there's a more specimen have been like about more 2,000 more occurrence on GBIF. So this is in the end. Now you can see at least roughly the map or the distribution of the species, and it's now visible. So I think it's open for everybody. You can download it and then work on it. And if you see some specimen you want to study more, you can contact the herbarium that own a specimen. So after this, now you can see like for Moses only, we have like 10,000 occurrence in Vietnam, and 3,000 of them is come from my herbarium, the BHH. 2,000 come from Paris, and then Missouri, and then again we have like about 1,000, and so on. Yes. Let's have a quick look about Indonesia. You also have a lot of occurrence. It also 27,000 occurrence of mosses in Indonesia, and they are mainly come from Leiden. As I say, it's about 7,500, and then Paris and Stockholm, and also London and so on. But I think we also need information from the local herbarium, so you can also start to work with it. Yeah. Okay, so this is still a long progress. There's no conclusion. I just want to show you that this is the progress of how we slowly work on the checklist, and then we still have many others things to do. But at least GBIF and also herbarium collection is a good start for working on the conservation status, and also for the checklist of the whole countries. And of course, we need also a lot of collaboration, which is not only for Vietnam, but like if we want to do is for the Southeast Asia, we should also check the species that occurring in a neighbor country, because it may be endemic for Vietnam or not, or it also can occur in the neighbor country. That's very possible. And we also need those information. Okay, I think this is my last slide. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask. It's my favorite photos.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really nice to see the update about the project in bryophytes. It's look like we conserve tiny plants, but also the scientists also should be at the red list status because look like
Yes.
which is endangered. So
I think taxonomy is also in danger.
yeah, and then from your last slide about the total herbarium from Indonesia, I see the number almost like 100 in Göttingen itself. It's yeah, you see there the last one 843. It should be belong to the project from Kratstein, I think you
Yes.
remember him, yeah. That is one of my motivation to continue study. So I took my master study in Göttingen because I went to study bryophytes, following what Kristen already made, but unfortunately he retired in 2009. So I still looking for another professor there, and I met another professor, Elvira, but her work mainly in ranunculus. Therefore, I changed my research topic into ranunculus. And afterward, I finished my master study coming back to Indonesia. I start observing several area. And then after continue again my doctor coming back 2 years ago, and I start also collecting several plant in my region. Yeah, but from the collaboration, it's look like nice because we also have special case. Bu Ida Hairida is a biologist from Indonesia. Bu Ida, are you still there? Yeah, if you can.
Yes, I'm here.
Bu Ida.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
I
too.
didn't expect that you also come.
Yeah, I forgot to share. So when you start your talk, I directly send of the flyer to first to Bu Ainunatipa and the second to Ida. And now Bu Ida is already here. Bu Ida, maybe you can also share about the current project in Bryophyte or Marsantia Vita, I means.
Yeah.
To
Yeah, it's really interesting. Tam Long, thank you very much. um, for my future project, I have a plan to study about mercantiophytes, especially around Wallace area, Wallace line. And first, I must collect all the databases if possible. Yeah, but several times I tried to contact some what do you call it, the database manager, something else like that. Yeah, I forgot the name. Um, but it's still I cannot reach it out. So I ask you, Tam, what is your opinion about this and how you can get the data from the database from
From which
JB, from
database?
Paris?
Sorry.
Yes.
From which database you were searching for?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably JB or others where the bryophytes are data. Yeah. Do you have any idea? So I'm sorry. I just.
Yes. For GB, I think you can download freely from internet.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so you can just go to GB
Mm-hmm.
and then you start to search. Maybe I can show.
yeah, later on after you explain, we also have another question from Pasmore, but yeah, let's wait Pasmore.
Yes, so do you see my screen? This is a GB website,
Yes.
for example, and then you can try to get the data occurrences,
Uh-huh.
and then you can filter, for example, let's say some Mercantiophyta,
Uh-huh.
and then you can filter your region, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, Yes. So for Mercantiophyta, there is about 11,000 results.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can download it, and then you can put download, but then you need to log in first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's free. And then you can download all of the occurrence in that. And you can also do some other filter too.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for GB, which I know.
Mm-hmm.
And for other database, oh, I'm not sure, but you can which one you have contact maybe.
Oh, well, I'm not sure about the database name, but I think
Yeah.
he made some database in his institution probably,
Ah,
and I don't think it is open access. So
okay.
I just
So if
contact.
it for personal, maybe it's a bit
Yeah, yeah,
difficult. It's I need.
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. It's worth to try. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Or you can just also try to go with your species. It's also, for example, what can be
Mhm.
yes. So it's also here, and then again you can try to check the occurrences.
Mhm.
And then also again to filter your location, or you can also make it from the map. I think
Mhm.
like you can put the on the map, or you can um again type the country names as well and then download it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope it helps you.
Okay. Hmm.
We
Just now
can,
I see a question from somebody.
yeah,
Thank
Asmoro
you.
raise hand, maybe if you still stay there, Pak Asmoro. Okay, if not, I also want to share about my current project together with my pharmacist professor in Jember University. So our idea is observing the cosmopolitan bryophytes, especially the mosses. So I take the data from GBIF. So in total, 14 million mosses already recorded in GBIF, and then I filter based on the latitude. And from this data, I already get almost 400 species occupy more than 3 area, and then I make a border filter, and in total I have for about 87 species small polyp which occupy more than 3 area based on the latitude. And then we later on we want to focus based on this species, and then want to explore the metabolite of the species, and then see which metabolites can be explored for future medicine development. That's our idea at the beginning. Yeah, and Pak Asmoro, do you still have question?
It's a bit difficult with the internet connection, and sometimes it's lost and sometimes it comes again. So it's nice presentation. So I still have a question. It actually comes out to me when I realized that this tiny plant, I would say, moss, could spread throughout the world, even they has a limitation in a dispersal agent. So in a ecological or evolution point of view, what do you think, how they adapt to invade a new environment with limitation of the agent to disperse? Because sometimes you could find the same species in a quite distant area. Let's say we could find in Vietnam, but sometimes you could find in the same species in Java, let's say. So
Yes.
let's say the geographical boundary, it should be limit the ability. So what do you think about the ability to spread, especially with the a small plant as a moss? Yeah.
Yes. I thanks for the question. This is a very interesting topic, and I think in general, I just say in general because it can be by species.
Yeah.
For most bryophyte in general is rather widespread. It's not too much endemic like for some like orchid or something. Because of there have been some study about the spore. For example, those species that in general, the species that are pollinated, I mean reproduced by spore, they can travel or disperse more easily rather than those with the seed, like seed plant. And the spore can be also in the air and also attached to some human activity, which is rather difficult to be eliminated than the seed plant. And then there have been some study that the airplane it have to cross the spore, like the spore has go to the air current to the airplane zone, and then it can be crossed even over the continent. And also some similar study, I remember that. So I think in general, in my opinion, bryophytes they are more widespread than vascular plant. And is it also your question about some in a harsh environment or some things?
It look like Passmore have problem with connection, but let's try to catch it. This one. Okay. Yep, Passmore, it's already answered always your question, or you still have some?
Yeah. Of course. For the furnace, it makes sense that that's could be agent for disperse, especially because they weight is quite light and it could be spread through the air. But indeed, that the moss itself living in a humid area or humid environment, so they depend on the humidity to protect themselves, and also because it's the part of how they live. So
Yes.
that's make me still wonder how actually mobile of the spore to disperse. Yeah, because they live in a humid area or humid environment.
Yes, I understand your question. Yes, it's true that the bryophytes need water for part of their cycle, especially in the fertilization. But there's also many more species that can live in the harsh condition, like in the deserts or in the polar area. Like the Arctic or the Antarctic. So it's so it's true that they need humid, but they have also the ability to revive, like they can kind of hibernate when there are no water, and then they just need a little bit, a small amount of water, so they can start to revive again in some species that which can live in the harsh environment. So they don't really need a lot of water, like in the forest or somewhere, but there are also many species that just live in maybe in the morning or very few when the humid a little bit low, and then they can get the water from the air and the dew. Is it answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Question from Pasmoro. We also have some question from students. So let me share a little bit the question, please. Yeah, so I asked students to make a question based on their names here. And then let me see, maybe there is another interesting question. Okay, this is a really interesting question from Mazia Natasha Akila. So let's me translate it into English. Due to the climate change, is there any species of bryophytes now should be more concerned because of this global warming or climate change, that's they gonna be extinct due to this condition?
Yes, there is yes, it's there should be but I think, for example, some species that have very narrow distribution. Because bryophytes, as I say, they can be some species that can be very widely distributed, like bryophyte everywhere. But there are also some species that require very limited condition. For example, very only in the high mountain or in some in a very harsh condition. And once the environment change, it will damage the distribution of that species. I cannot tell the species name because it's still very under study, but I can explain with you one of the example that I am currently working on it, which is the most aerobryophytes deflexa, and maybe I can share with you on GP. Okay. Let me share my screen, but it's easier to explain in this way. Yes, share. Do you see my screen? So this is the most species called aerobryopsis deflexa, and this is how to say it's previously it was considered as an endemic for Vietnam, and their distribution is only found in like about 8 locations. On the GBIF is only 2 dots because there's not many data have been there, but for my data, there's some other collection too. But recently there are also some from China, and there are 2 collections from China, which I'm a little bit still doubt about. First, about the identification. So I need to check the specimen, but let's just a little bit forget about that. So let's say the distribution is rather small, and what I want is to finding the location and the recent current status of that species. How to say? And then just last week I was in the field. No, last 2 weeks I was in the field. I visit again the location, and sorry, let me use the photo from Facebook. So this is our team. We are trying to visit the location of that species, and then we found the species again. But the interesting thing is they are not only in the, like if you go too deep in the forest, you cannot find this species. But if it's too open, you also cannot find its species. This species has a quite narrow habitat that not too shadow, like it cannot find in the deep forest, but not too open, and also not too dry, but also not too humid. So usually we find it at the margin of the forest, and also it found on the gravestone. This is their own grave. You can see from here. Yes, so this is one example that you can see like some species that have very narrow distribution, and once the condition change, it will affect that. And for sure that with climate change, the species can be either shifted more to the north or to the higher up, or also the habitat loss, it can also be affected species. So this is just one example.
Yeah, really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Answer your
Yeah,
question.
I missed the picture because it's makes me remember I was in Kofu National Park in 2014.
Yeah.
I'm made of
Ah,
forest.
you were in Kufu.
Yeah, in Kofu for about 1 month. We stayed there together with my master's student my friends together there to make a forest evaluation. And I especially working with the epiphytic ferns, so I climbed several trees there inside the forest. Interestingly, that I cannot find any animal inside the forest.
Yeah.
That's one of interesting moment that I got because people told me, yeah, because of the barrier between Vietnam and China, because this threat of the wildlife's quite massive there. Yeah. Okay. It's almost 1 hour. Can I have one more question from student? Yeah. Uh, for example, from the master student.
I just want to keep in mind that it's not there's a many kind of habitat, and there's species that there's some species that require harsh conditions, for example, in the desert along the coast. So if we grow too much forest in that place, it's also not good. For example, I just because it's also a very unique habitat for that species.
Okay, yeah. We have maybe the last question is related to question from Abdillah Maulana Farhan. He asking about the field identification, and I want to relating to the what we are doing now. We are applying molecular identification based on DNA barcode. So for example, our last project, we analyzed the sequence from MEDK, ITS, and RBCL, but at the moment, we only get the data from the RBCL. The MEDK and ITS is still difficult. Do you have also experience working with the molecular study?
Yes, for DNA barcode, I think I mainly use RBCL and ITS. For verified. MudK is a bit difficult to do it. So I think I don't have much experience with MudK. I think for fluorocards, especially for my group that Meteoraceae, I don't use MudK. Sorry, I'm in the mute.
And the complete plastome, do you have experience?
Sorry.
The complete chloroplast genome, do you already have experience working on it?
Not much. This might be my next step, but currently I'm just more focused on a several marker and trying to do the phylogeny.
I see. Yeah. And related to the question from student, people usually use the small loop to identify on the field. Do you have another breakthrough strategy to identify, for example, using a field guidebook that student can easily recognize the bryophyte on the field, or do you have any experience when you teach student to identify the bryophytes?
This is difficult because we don't have any book for Vietnam. So we usually mainly use the neighbor flora. For example, the most flora of China, and then the one some Thailand and Malaysia. Like we have to pull the information from scattered literature. For Indonesia, I think you have a good guide for the liverwort, which is based on grassland wort. But for Moses, I think it's still a bit missing. But you have like some neighboring, like the Hun Peninsula, for they are having some kind of study, and some families have been revised, some revision. So usually so the most important is to recognize the families, and then slowly go down to some revision of some other people. But I have to say this is difficult for the beginning. But you don't lose your patience. Just be slowly, and then after you get the feeling of the species, you know, then you will know where to look for it. It's difficult, but it needs patience.
Yeah, I have another question from the biology student from the first semester about what is the people not already utilized the bryophytes because people might be thinking it's already for decorative or for the medicinal purpose. Do you have any experience in Vietnam how people using the bryophytes for what they need at the moment?
I'm not really get the question.
Yes. The question in ethnobotany or in the, for example, in the plant exotics, what kind of bryophytes already utilized in Vietnam now? But people using the bryophytes for medicine or for exterior something.
Yes, bryophyte in Vietnam is not widely used. But I have done some project like a few years ago, try to extract some chemical compound from the bryophyte, and it shows some positive from result. Like some liverwort, they have antibacterial ability, and especially leafy liverwort. And also some of my colleagues are also now focusing on study the chemical and then trying to do the like the culture, like in vitro culture for some species. But that's it, the work of my college. But in like the ethnobotany, like the local people, I don't think it has been very well used.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's also for info from student. In Botany, Putri already published a paper about the Mercury Suta. The paper give information about the antimicrobial activity. And then from this research, our master student now, Mas Farhan, continues study to explore, identify the metabolite from that's on the GCMS, LCMS, and also see the antioxidant activity. And hopefully we will get another insight from this specific reference.
And I think you should also like combine with some kind of like growing, like culturing, because after you get the chemical, for example, if you want to like using it in industrial or commercial, then the amount is always the problem. For bryophyte, the amount is usually too small, and you cannot collect just from the wild, and then that's always need to trying to together with some individual culture that could help.
Aspect also to research in private.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. It's already 75 minutes already. Thank you
No
very much.
problem. Yeah.
We have really nice discussion, really nice update from your research. Hopefully we can discuss later on. Yeah,
Yeah.
text you by email and then we can discuss later on because I have several draft research in Verified and then in the Verified. I would like to offer you to be another co-author for this research and then
Yeah,
get
sure. I think I'm very happy to collaborate, and
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Student, we can close now our guest meeting. Applause for our special guest lecture today, Long Tim Tam.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming, and hope you have some idea and more motivation in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.